Welcome to the Clive Barker Podcast. We're the only podcast dedicated solely to the works of Clive Barker and those he inspires. In this episode, we talk about our new Clive Barker Podcast Presents Fundraiser for Bloodmoney, which is doing better than we had ever could have hoped. Please go find it on Kickstarter and take a look at all the great stuff we have to offer. We're only on day 3. Maybe get yourself one of our interview hardcover books or a Clive Barker Podcast T-Shirt. We also brought in a friend of the show, David, to talk about Fiddleblack's The Last Illusion and other annotations. David may be the biggest Harry D'Amour fan ever. All this plus Clive Barker news here on episode 130 of the Clive Barker Podcast. We want to introduce our guests, right? We got Jose and I'm Ryan, and today joining us is David.
Hello.
Hey.
David is joining us from Minnesota. He's a big Clive Barker fan. So I think we've mentioned your name several times in the podcast over the last few years. And it's interesting that you're here. Yeah. It's interesting that you're here for this episode because you're an enormous Harry D'Amour fan.
Yep, I have been for a long time. So,
and
I follow the podcast too.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and I had thought that if we're going to talk about a book that's dedicated to The Last Illusion, you would be the perfect person to have on to talk about it.
Yeah, they had a lot of interesting extras in this one too.
Yeah. I guess before we get into that in the news, we wanted to talk a little bit about our Kickstarter. And when we had planned this episode, I thought that Kickstarter was going to take 3 days to a week to review our Kickstarter before it could go live, but it turned out that it reviewed in seconds and it was ready to go. So we're like, oh my god, okay, we're starting. So,
Yep.
Yeah. So and the it's called Clive Barker Podcast Presents Fundraiser for Bloodmoney, and this has been our most successful so far. We're only on day 2, and it's been our most successful fundraiser so far. I mean, just the amount of contributors, and we have cool stuff that you can buy.
Yeah, we have a lot of backer rewards. We have about 20 backer rewards. Some of them have already been taken. One of the rewards that was the most interesting was a hand-painted, one-of-a-kind T-shirt that Clive Barker painted once. And we had that donated by Seraphin, and thank you to all the guys at Seraphin, like Mark Miller, Ben Mears, Christian Francis, for their support. And one lucky collector snatched that thing up right away in the first 45 minutes of the Kickstarter. So congratulations.
Yeah, I was a little bit late on that one.
Oh, yeah.
It's a gorgeous painting. It looks like the T-shirt's a little old, though. It's a little kind of yellowish, but if you went to see like the offices at Seraphin, you see the piles of stuff there, and the garage is filled with stuff. I mean, I bet you they have all sorts of stuff there, just collecting dust in neat little piles of art.
So our initial goal was $500, and we've at the time of this recording, we're at 1,115. So for stretch goals, we're going to do now an episode about Sacrament, one about Galilee, one about Mr. Begone. We're going to do an audio commentary for Hellraiser Judgment.
Yeah, when it's out. Yeah, that's true. It comes out in March, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be painful.
I'm sorry to laugh. I'm trying to keep an open mind about that.
Yeah, I know.
And we're going to do one about Cold Heart Canyon. We're going to do maybe a 2-parter episode about the Nightbreed comics, or 3 parts. We'll see how that goes. An audio commentary for Heikel's Tale. We're going to do a series of episodes about Clive Barker's A to Z of horror. Now, this is kind of complicated because it's a book and a TV series, and we're going to cover both.
Yeah, an interesting thing is that book was edited by Stephen Jones, who was a publicist for Hellraiser 1, 2, and 3. And he was also involved with Nightbreed. And he's also the editor of Shadows in Eden, which is a really amazing book of nonfiction about Clive Barker, full of essays and interviews and stuff. And when I was talking about A through Z of horror once on Facebook, he actually popped up and commented, "Oh yeah, we should talk about the origin of that book sometime." So,
oh wow, and Oh, an audio commentary for Valerie on the Stairs. And this is a big one. We actually, this was José's idea. We were going to do a book of transcribed interviews, and we're still in the planning stages of that. So we don't know, because we know that one interview will take up a lot of pages. So the format and the what idea it's going to be wrapped around, or the theme, title, we don't have any of that stuff yet, but I'm excited that we reached that goal and that we're gonna make that happen.
Yeah, we do have hours and hours of interview episodes accumulated over the years with a lot of people like Nicholas Vince, Barbie Wilde, Simon Banford, Mark Miller, Russell Charrington, Michael Plummedes, Thomas Negovan, Nightbreed actors, and even Clive Barker by email for episode number 100. Podcasts are always fun to listen to, but the digital format has limits. Like you have to have a connection to download it. You have to have a working computer to listen to it, or a music player. With a book, it's something that you can hold in your hands instead of a computer file. So it'll take some time to transcribe these things, because now there's only two of us. But hey, it should be interesting. And like Ryan said, our episodes usually are between 1 hour and a half. I mean, interview episodes sometimes would go close to 2 hours. I mean, we would edit them down a little bit. But if you transcribe about a minute per page, then that would be like enormous for each interview. So we may have to abridge it a little bit here and there, do without some of the intros or some of the tangent stuff that, may not be as interesting. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. But we're definitely doing the interview book.
And I had kind of a rough idea for themes. We got 3 different books we could do. I mean, and I think it'd be neat as a series, but Occupy Midian and Nightbreed would be one, maybe Hellraiser would be another, and fan like the fan community and inspirational stuff. So people write books around the Clive Barker universe, or create, make movies that are adaptations, or
Sure.
Yeah.
And for example, the same actors have been in different movies, so maybe a book would focus more on Hellraiser. We would have interviews with Nicholas Vince, Simon Banford, and Barbie Wilde. But then for Nightbreed, we could also have, for the Occupy Midian volume, if that happens, then we could have a section where we would transcribe the parts of the interviews where they talk about their experiences with Nightbreed, for example. Yeah. And that could be a thematic kind of abridged interview thing. So I don't know. We're open to suggestions. We're still discussing it, but the interview book is happening. The stretch goal has been met, so that's a very exciting thing to actually have something physical for the podcast.
And Hellraiser 4 audio commentary, we didn't do that last year because of the documentary, but it's still something that we want to do. And then the last stretch goal we have right now is a mobile phone and iOS and Android app for the podcast, which would increase our expenses. Actually, that would double our yearly expenses to have that. But if we reach that stretch goal, that would be no problem.
Right. So yeah, all these rewards have been kindly donated by the good people of Seraphim, as well as Century Guild Museum of Art. And some even come from Ryan's own personal collection,
Yeah. And the things we have left, there's an Imaginer 1 poster. We have Imagica collectible card posters and cards themselves. And if you click on the picture of the reward of the cards, then it takes you to a site where I made a spreadsheet of all the cards that I have, and how many of each one, and you can pick either one rare one or 2 uncommons, and then you'll also throw in a whole bunch of common cards too.
Sure.
What else have we got here? Oh, Imaginer 2 posters. We have 20 of those still. These are actually our most popular posters so far. Do Not Trust the Smiling World. And I want one of those when you get a chance.
I know.
So do I.
When you ship those out, those are cool.
Sure. Those were donated by the Century Guild. Yeah. I think they were leftovers from when they were representing Clive Barker. and they had stuff prepared, but then, the collaboration ended, and I think they're just getting rid of that stock.
Yeah.
And we were lucky enough to get a few of those, and for this Kickstarter, we have 100 available. And we'll be shipping those out as people get more copies of those. So stay tuned. It's a really nice looking poster, though. It's very well printed. It's good paper.
And we have a limited. We have a Clive Barker Podcast T-shirt. This is our second T-shirt design. This one, you designed based on a dream that Rob Ridenour had.
Yeah. Like, he had this vision in his head that a guy at an island, and then there would be 3 giant eyeballs looking down on him. And I kind of switched it up a little bit. We talked about it a little bit, and we kind of had some sketches done, and then we went to work and we did some digital art, and we added this little interesting effect to it that looks like a wood print, a woodcut. That's our T-shirt for this year, and it's going to be in sand color because honestly, it's kind of a complex design, so it wouldn't work very well in a black T-shirt if I had to make it like a negative white. But it looks pretty cool. You can show it off to your friends and advertise for the podcast. That's always fun. And I hope people like the design. I mean, I like the design. I thought it was cool, but I made it, so, I'm biased.
And we also
I think it's pretty cool, too.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you, David.
We also have an interview book, the one we just talked about for our goal. There's a hardcover book, and it'll have a wraparound cover, kind of like if you're familiar with Barbie Wilde's Voices of the Damned or Paul Kane's Monsters. They have wraparound, kind of like an old textbook.
Yeah, it doesn't have a dust jacket. If you're thinking about that, this is not the dust jacket version. It's going to have a wraparound cover, and maybe Ryan, you and I will probably design that cover and come up with something and see what it works.
Yeah, and since we reached that, before we had in here that you would either get, if we didn't reach the goal, you'd get a T-shirt instead. But now we've reached that goal, so those books are going to be a reality, and every backer for the podcast, no matter how what they donated, is going to get the ebook version.
Right. A PDF without any sort of DRM, so you'll just be able to download it, or we'll send it to you.
Yeah. And then we've got choose a topic for the podcast episode. And last year I didn't put a limit on that, but this year I limited it to 3 because we have a lot of other stuff that we have to do. So, but those are still available. Advertising is still available. The Stitchling print, I'm surprised that nobody's bought that one yet, actually.
It's actually for sale still in the real Clive Barker store, I think. And it varies between 2 sizes, and it can go from like $50 to $150. So I think we have a really big one, right?
Yeah, I think we have the $150 one. Part of me wants that to not get sold so that I can frame it and put it up on my wall. But honestly, we could we could use that for the podcast. So, and that's what we have left. The T-shirts and the posters have been big ones, and the book. But come check it out. If you go to Kickstarter and you search for Clive Barker, we're at the top of the list, so you'll find us.
Go to our Facebook page. We've been posting the link all over it, and also we'll be doing some blog posts on our blog. Yeah. And all our campaign updates are going to be public, so anybody can read the updates. And and I'm thinking about mirroring those updates also on the blog. So
that's a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, I haven't updated the website with really anything other than that spreadsheet of the Magica cards, but we need to start putting this stuff on the website too.
Sure.
Yeah, it just this all happened so fast. It's like, oh yeah, no, you're ready to go, and I'm like, what? I thought you were going to take 3 days to review it like last year. But
yeah. So thanks for all the support so far. Please keep it up. The Kickstarter fees take a big chunk of the pledges. We do spend a lot of hours working for the show. It's mostly free work that we do from the heart. It's fun. It's hard. I mean, the last few days have been kind of a rush between me and Ryan. We've been messaging every day, every hour.
Yeah.
It's something we do because at some point in our lives we saw a movie or read a book written by this Clive Barker fellow, and we thought to ourselves, this is pretty good. I wonder if I can find more stuff that he made. Yeah. And, sometime later you're surrounded by a bookshelf and DVDs and plushies and figurines and art books, and that missing piece in your brain begins to feel a little more at peace, a little more satisfied. Yeah. We dream of quiddity. We sail the seas of Isabella in our dreams. We smell leather and we think of musical boxes. And, we put pen to paper and paint to canvas because Clive Barker inspires us to do it, because art is a remedy of the soul. So thanks for listening to us.
I was trying to think of a good segue, but I didn't make it. But yeah, let's talk about the Clive Barker news. There aren't a whole lot of them this time around, but the Thief of Always Anniversary Edition, created by Seraphim Inc., is now available to pre-order.
Oh, I see. That looks beautiful. I'm looking at the pictures of it. It looks pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if I get one, it's going to be the $7. There's a $70 one, right? And there's is it $350?
$425.
$420. Wow.
The standard edition is $70, and the deluxe edition is $425.
Yeah.
So the standard edition has
a $70 one too.
I think so.
That sounds good. The standard edition has the Unused Art Archive, an extensive gallery of unused and alternate artwork, Thieves from Around the World, which is the gallery of cover images from other worldwide releases, and it's limited to just 200 copies signed by Clive Barker. So for $70, it's a good deal.
Yeah. For me, it would be mainly for the unused artwork. But also, I like that the dust jacket has a different cover, and then you open that up, and they have the key art or whatever, the art that doesn't have the title on there, the whole wraparound cover.
Sure.
Behind that.
Isn't it the other way around, though? I think the dust jacket is going to have Mr. Hood's house painting, and then inside it's going to be that blue cover, right? That says The Thief of Always.
Oh,
I'm not sure because
maybe that's how it is. I'm looking at the pictures right now. Maybe they have the slipcase looks like that also.
Yeah.
That could be.
Isn't it cool when there's slipcases? I always thought slipcases are very cool.
They are cool.
Yeah. So that's it's going to be the second edition from Seraphim Inc., right? It's going to be the second book that they're making. The first one was First Tales.
Yeah, and First Tales I really liked.
You can pre-order it from realclivebarker.com. So go visit that store and check out all the unused material that's listed for each edition. I know that there's a Clive Barker collector group out there on Facebook where I've seen people say, I already pre-ordered the deluxe edition for $425. And I'm always so jealous of collectors like that. Yeah. It's like, I wish I could afford that one right now,
Yeah, in the Clive Barker collecting group, I see that stuff. I'm like, wow, man. I see what people are posting and like, are you guys getting this one? Or I got this for $1,000 or whatever. And it's like, wish I could
Often
do that.
It's also seen as... Sometimes it's seen also as kind of an investment. Eventually in the future.
That's a little bit alien to me. I never think about, like when I see people commenting about, you got that personalized, that's worthless now, and it's like not to me, it's not.
Yeah. Another thing we talked about on the last episode, and we were a little confused about it, but I would just like to put the record straight. The Great and Secret Show Deluxe Special Edition is shipping now, and that special edition from Dark Regions Press, there are people who already have the other the numbered edition that was $75. That already shipped. I mean, I've seen people on Facebook that already have copies of that one.
Well, in our last episode, it was 2016 in review, so we were talking about, we don't know if it had shipped yet. At that point, it hadn't. Yeah. And I think right after we put that episode up, then there was news that it was shipping. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it didn't make it for 2016.
Yeah, the Great and Secret Show for me was, I think, one of the first big novels from Clive Barker that I read, and it's definitely one of his most ambitious trilogies that he came up with so far. Apart from Abarat, which is not a trilogy, but so. Good news is that someone at Seraphin told us that the next book of the art is actually pretty well mapped, about halfway done, I would say, or they would say. So that's a good news for people who want to know where the Book of the Art trilogy is at. I remember a few years ago.
That's very good news.
Yeah, right. I mean, 50% done and already completely mapped out. So that's excellent news for people who love the trilogy of the art. And I hope that Dark Regions Press will eventually do Everville as well, and hopefully the third Book of the Art whenever it comes out.
Yeah. David, so did you pre-order this Great and Secret Show deluxe edition?
No, I didn't do that one yet. Nope, I didn't.
I didn't. I have a first edition of it with that cool painting on the cover. The UK one.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm happy with that. I
have the UK limited edition.
Oh, wow.
And it had a lot of extra art on the inside, too. Wonder if that's going to carry over to this one.
Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah. Well, I imagine somebody will show us. Well, we can bug people on the Facebook to show us what's inside.
I think we kind of buried the lead on the news, though, because the third item on the news is kind of a big deal. It came almost unnoticed. It showed up on Amazon UK, that listing for Scarebaby hardcover. It says here 7th September 2017, although we were told by people at Seraphin that it's probably just going to be 2018. But there's a new book that's a new novel from Clive Barker on the way called Scarebaby.
Yeah. Yeah, a children's book, and it's being published with HarperCollins, which is kind of neat, because I had thought that relationship was pretty much over, but other than Abarat. And
they list a hardcover at 160 pages. I don't know how much of this is just a dummy information that they put up.
I have a feeling a lot of it is. I mean, probably the price and the number of pages. I mean, they don't really know.
Yeah, and sometimes Clive pulls a fast one, I guess, like when he released Mr. Be Gone. That came out of nowhere. I mean, he just said that one time he was hearing this voice in his head, and it was Jacobach Botch, and it was demanding that he write his story, and he did it in a few months, and that's when we got Mr. Be Gone. So I'm assuming either this is from something that they already had there in as a manuscript, or it's something that Clive came up on his own. So let's wait and see for 2018 what Scarebaby is going to bring to the table.
Have you guys read? There's a children's book, a Sesame Street book called "The Monster" at the end of this book.
No, I haven't.
With Grover. So basically, Grover is basically saying, "Don't turn the page. There's a monster at the end of this book," and he's doing all this stuff to try to stop you from turning the pages and like he'll put a brick wall on the page, and then you turn the page, and he's like, "Oh, you're so strong, you destroyed my brick wall." And anyway, when Mr. Be Gone came out, I sent a copy of that book to Clive Barker, but I never heard anything back about it.
That's great. That's awesome. Yeah, Grover. He's the blue one, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I know who he is. That's a funny parallel there that you came up with. I wonder if that book is somewhere in Clive Barker's shelf. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, but Scarebaby, I'm excited for. I mean, if we can have something else that's similar to Abarat or similar to The Thief of Always, with illustrations or paintings, that would be great.
Oh, sure. I mean, for now, the only thing we have is a title, and that's kind of hard to go by that because there's not much info. But hey, it's coming.
We tried to probe more about it, and all we got was that date is not correct. It's not going to be out in September. It'll be more like 2018, and Clive is almost finished with it.
That's great.
But yeah, it hasn't been submitted to the publisher for editing so.
Yeah, if you're a Clive Barker fan, you know how it's like to expect Clive Barker novels.
Yeah, well, and when you first hear about a novel like this, I mean, if it's when it's been turned into the publisher, then it's like a year after that. That's so. We just got to be patient.
Yep, patience. Okay, which brings us to our main topic. which is we're going to discuss the Fiddleblack Lord of Illusions release that a lot of people have been getting in the mail. And I haven't. You guys have both a copy. I'm thinking about ordering mine this weekend, but so I'm probably going to be asking you guys all sorts of questions about the book.
Sure. So first of all, I mean, David, did you get the Cabal and other annotations when they came up with that one?
No, I didn't get that one.
Okay.
I wasn't going to get this one either until Phil and Sarah told me I probably should get this one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
All the Harry D'Amour stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I've been asking them over the years about it.
I remember when I got the Cabal and other annotations, Fiddleblack has a very cool way of delivering the book to you. It arrives like very well packaged, and then you open it up, and there's like the book comes wrapped in black paper with a little black bow tied around it as well.
Yeah.
And I thought that was pretty cool. I almost didn't want to open it up. I was like, I made an unboxing video for the Cabal and other annotations. So if you go on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/user/BarkerCast, you will be able to see the unboxing video for Cabal and other annotations. I was told by people who got this book, the Fiddleblack Lord of Illusions, that it's shipped the same way. So they have the same care. Yeah.
You were told by me.
Oh, right. There you go.
Yeah. But I was not patient enough to make an unboxing video. I just wanted to see it, so I opened it up really fast.
Oh, yeah. I understand.
But this is great. It's there are 5 introductions to this?
Yep.
Plus a publisher's note from Fiddleblack, which was really nice. Chris Angel, I was surprised, a little bit surprised that was in there, but David, you saw, I think that the takeaway from the Chris Angel one was that Clive Barker, he approached Chris Angel a little bit too late, because he came along to the when they were in post-production or something, but he said, "Oh, I would have put you as the Lord of Illusions," which I think that means he would have played Swan.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, what would you have thought?
I got out of it.
What would you have thought of Chris Angel as Swan?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I don't know if he has the acting ability for that.
Is he an actor?
Well, back in 1994. Or 1995 when they made the movie. I think he was probably too young to play the role of Swan, I would say.
I think he was just getting started then.
Yeah.
Right. I remember the first time that Clive Barker and Chris Angel actually collaborated together there was some sort of like DVD or Laserdisc or something with Chris Angel music, I believe. And I think Clive Barker wrote something or wrote
Well, I thought
lyrics or something.
I thought it was. I thought it was a CD, and he did like the liner notes or something in there.
Yeah. There was probably something like that. So, but what are you talking about when you brought up Chris Angel in the book? Is there a segment where, like a preface, or?
Yeah, it's a Chris Angel introduction to the book. So he talked about how Clive Barker had approached him about his movie Lord of Illusions, and then, but by that point it was too late, and the casting had already been done.
Oh, okay.
And he's like, it's too bad I could have used you as our Lord of Illusions, which I think means he would have played Swan rather than Kevin J. O'Connor.
Yeah, and of course in 2013, Chris Angel did the Death Premonition in the streets of Las Vegas, where he reproduced kind of it was close. It wasn't the same thing. It was more like what do you call that thing where someone has to guess something, or he has to guess something. Anyway, it was called Death Premonition.
The Mentalist act.
Mentalist. Thank you, David. Thank you. I remember him doing the Death Premonition, 2013, I think, and I saw it on TV.
Yeah, he talks about that in the book.
Oh, okay. Excellent. So, it was part of his Believe kind of show. So,
I still never have watched that. I don't know. I never got around to it. I suppose it's probably on YouTube somewhere.
It's probably there. If we find it, we'll put it in the show notes.
Okay. Yeah.
But there was some swords hanging over him, and there were some ropes, and then someone had to I believe, pick a few levers or whatever, and one of them would drop a sword on him. I was
expecting it to go horribly wrong.
Yeah. I've read a blog post of someone who was actually on the scene in the audience, and they were saying how long it took to make that. TV is the magic of TV makes it seem like it's all just one uninterrupted act. But in fact, it was actually recorded over a certain number of hours with certain cuts and stuff and false starts. So anyway, if we find the video, we'll put it up. So that's one of the things in the book. There's Chris Angel. And I think he would have been a weird Swan. I feel like Swan needed to be someone a little older, and as a main character of the movie, probably someone with more acting experience.
The next one was Phil and Sarah Stokes, this is kind of the jewel of the book. Like David was saying, and they told him,
Definitely.
hey, you really want to get this one, and there is so much cool stuff in here that we didn't know, like The Great Unknown. I mean, I don't think I ever really placed it in history, but it was originally, The Great Unknown was originally supposed to be the first Harry D'Amour movie, and he wrote that script in 1987. So, like, right after Hellraiser.
Yeah, I was surprised at that, too. That was supposed to be the next movie.
Yeah, and then the Last Illusion would have been, like, number 2 movie, I think.
Yep.
And so then in 1990... someone else, another writer that was hired by A&M Studios, actually wrote a script for The Last Illusion, and they made Harry like an action hero. And Clive Barker didn't like, him being like this Arnold Schwarzenegger type of a character. And so he decided to write his own script for The Last Illusion. And in that one, this introduced the concept of a Vipex, which now we finally know what a Vipex is, right?
Yes.
So what is it?
Something from the Metacosm.
Oh, I see. Okay, cool. So the Metacosm is the same kind of like dimension where we have Quiddity and all those demons that come through in like the Great and Secret Show, Everville. Yeah, okay, I got it.
And the Vipex is something that they kept in a cage, and they would sort of like freebase their blood. And it would give them magical powers.
Oh, wow. That is totally Clive Barker stuff.
Power of resurrection.
Yeah. I just want to bring to everyone out there who wants to know more about The Great Unknown, and I guess now they can just buy this book, but before that, there was a magazine called Fantasia with a Z. Number 17 used to have an article with a complete rundown of The Great Unknown, Harry D'Amour's first adventure, which was something that a guy called Andy wrote the article. And I think that Clive Barker was really mad at him when he did that, because I think he gave him access to go there and read that article, read the script.
That was that one.
And I think that afterwards he went and wrote that article where he said almost kind of like a general outline of the story. Okay. And that was like when Clive got really mad and said, oh man, that guy's never coming here again because he just spoiled the whole script. So I guess now they finally put an article about that in this book, which is now Clive is telling the story on his own terms about The Great Unknown.
Well, and the interesting thing there is I think when we talked about this earlier on the podcast, we thought The Great Unknown was a sequel to The Lord of Illusions.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a prequel.
Yeah, but it's
actually.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was supposed to have come out before the. I mean, it would have been released before then, so it would have just been the first movie.
Yeah, it was originally titled The First Adventure.
Exactly. The Harry D'Amour's First Adventure was the subtitle of this book. So the movie. So yeah, maybe there's a script out there somewhere. We don't know. It would be great to find that out. Yeah.
And also it was the original Clive's original script for Last Illusion was more gruesome. They all the 5 members of the former cultists that killed Nix, they dismembered his corpse, and they each took one of the pieces and buried it in a different location, and they didn't tell each other where the pieces were buried.
Wow. So that was 1990.
Well, you changed that because they were there were too many torture scenes.
Yeah, exactly. Because then Butterfield goes around and tortures each one of them, and to make them give up the location of the piece.
Oh, that would actually be interesting. Yeah, there's a little bit of a reflection from Nightbreed there, I guess, when Baphomet's body is taken in pieces by each Nightbreed member and absconded. So that's kind of cool. That's another kind of thing that Clive Barker does sometimes, where he gets like a cult members or some members of a tribe will carry their god along with them in pieces. That's always an interesting metaphor there.
And
this is all part of Phil and Sarah Stokes' article, right?
Yes, and he wrote 4 more drafts after that, and then in 1995 he wrote a sequel called Vipex, and in that one the Vipex wasn't the same. That wasn't the same kind of creature at all.
That was supposed to be a movie or a TV series?
Lost Souls.
That was a movie, and then there was a TV series that they wrote after that.
One of those things, one of those unfinished projects that never happened.
Yeah, exactly what David was saying. Vipex was going to be loosely based on the Lost Souls story.
Oh, I see. Okay.
The Vipex creature in it, too.
Clive Barker once said in an interview in '96 that the ideal model for this is the television series Night Stalker, which I always loved. I'd like to think that we could do something similar with Harry. I think Bakula was tremendous playing the part of Harry. He's a very reassuring, accessible person, which curiously frees me up to be a lot nastier because the movie has such an accessible figure at its heart. It frees me up to be far colder and nastier. So that was going to be Vipex, a TV series for MGM. Yeah, that was supposed to come out in 2001.
That was the pilot episode.
Yeah, that would have been great. I wish they would have gotten the money to make that. I know a lot of pilots usually fall by the wayside, but sometimes, good things happen.
Yeah, well, reading about The Great Unknown, too, made me really kind of sad that never got made.
Sure. And the Scarlet Gospels originally had a plot line where Harry was supposed to meet Pinhead, right, when he was a kid, like in school or something like that.
Yeah. He was 13.
Yeah, and I think now that I'm thinking about that, it seems like that was what they were trying to hint at in the Boom Studios Hellraiser comics when they said Harry D'Amour had met Pinhead before and he had a bad memory of it, but then they never went back and followed that thread at all.
Sure.
So
maybe they weren't trying to just.
Yeah, because I think
something there to connect to like the Scarlet Gospels also.
Well, I think it was just probably Mark was in the middle of editing the Scarlet Gospels while he was writing issues of the
oh, that's right,
of the Boom Studios comic, and in that, he was trying to make it clear that they have different continuities, but maybe he thought, well, we could use the fact that he had met Pinhead before when he was a kid. They could, or maybe he was saying, since we're cutting that out of the book, maybe we could put that in the comic book. But there were so many writers and stuff that there were threads that just got left hanging in that Boom Studios comic.
Sure, I didn't like what they did to Harry D'Amour in the Boom Studios comic book. Actually, I thought it was kind of a waste of a good character, but that's just my personal opinion.
Turning him into the Harry D'Amour Pinhead.
Yeah, I kind of thought that looked a little silly, but that's me. That's my personal opinion.
It was a little weird to start see. Well, and they were having characters from WeWorld were coming in, and I was expecting to see like Pelican Head.
Oh yeah. So there's also a section with Peter H. Gilmore, the administrator of the Church of Satan. And author of the Satanic Scriptures. And
his introduction wasn't bad, but he kind of talked about the evolution of horror and fear, like fear on Lovecraft. A wider scale. Yeah, and he talked about he started off with Lovecraft, and he said the changing of horror from an intimate, like creatures that hunt people like vampires and werewolves, he said, and Lovecraft tried to sort of stray away from the metaphysical and go to these, alien creatures that are beyond our own understanding of, and then he talked about another person named Blish that, honestly, have you guys ever heard of him?
No, that was new to me too.
So what name is it?
Blish, Blish. Yeah. But he had talked about a story arc about this guy that wants to let out a few demons so that he can sell weapons to fight the demons with, that'll help his business. And then what he ends up doing is creating an apocalypse by mistake.
He said he had a 1968 novel called Black Easter.
Yeah, that was the one.
Okay, then I guess we can look up that name and see what we can come up. Because now I'm curious about that. I'm always curious to hear about, important artists or obscure artists that kind of define the genre, like Lovecraft. Sometimes there's other names that are not as well known, but they're just as good. So it's always good to do some research and follow the little white rabbit down the hole. So I'm definitely going to look more into this Blish fellow.
So his what he was saying is he thought that Clive Barker was almost sort of an evolution from Lovecraft and Blish sort of meshed together to make these sort of demonic creatures that were Lovecraftian in a way.
I can see that. I mean, I understand what you guys were talking about, the change from these metaphysical creatures and ghosts and stuff that communicate and prey on humans but live in the same world as humans, to this Lovecraftian chthonic monsters that are representations of almost like a primordial chaos that, you can't communicate with these monsters at all. It's not like a vampire where you can actually talk to them. But there's these monsters that appear in The Last Illusion, like the Rapari or the Castrato.
Yeah.
And they feel like they're different kinds of demons that just came out of the gulfs. And one of them, apparently, the Rapari, is kind of like more like an engine than an actual creature, right? He has these like legs that are almost mechanic. It's almost like seeing this giant, like a jackhammer.
Something that H.R. Geiger would have done.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like some of the designs that he made for Harkonnen monsters for Dune and stuff like that. And this Rapari would be, his limbs would kind of look like giant crutches, like prosthetic stuff, just kind of climbing through the hallway up the stairs. So yeah, these monsters are very, very different from what we're used to seeing in traditional horror.
On that note, David, I'm just kind of curious. When you first saw Lord of Illusions, were you disappointed that it wasn't more like The Last Illusion?
Yeah, I was very disappointed.
I was
waiting
too.
for Valentin to turn into a demon.
Yeah, I was too. And
it didn't happen.
the more I watched Lord of Illusions, the more I loved it. But at the start, I was kind of let down.
I have a different outlook on the movie, in the sense that I guess I didn't expect it to be like The Last Illusion. I saw it as kind of its own thing. I had read the Books of Blood at that point, I think. Yes, I had read the Books of Blood. I read the Books of Blood around 93 or 94. That's when I read the Books of Blood. And then I saw The Lord of Illusions when it came out. I rented the movie when it showed up in my video store. And I guess I just saw it as kind of like, I didn't make that connection immediately to The Last Illusion. And then when I saw it, I did come across this idea. I had read The Damnation Game not too long before watching the movie. And I saw that there was a big parallel between Nyx and Mamoulian from The Damnation Game. And because, Mamoulian is a character who wants to go into the darkness with Joseph Whitehead. And he's a guy who has these powers and has these like magic, the knowledge of the secret magic. And it's the same for Nyx. Nyx is kind of this guy. He wants to take Swan with him into the darkness. He has these like magical powers. And, he's like a master and disciple relationship here, but also kind of almost a homoerotic relationship between Swan and Nyx, the same as Mamoulian and Whitehead,
Yeah. Yeah. I think Clive is really interested in sort of this retelling of the Faustian story.
For sure. This guy
story is a starting off point.
And the story, when I went back to read the Books of Blood story, I actually realized, it's really different. And I thought, there's only some characters who come through from the Books of Blood story into the movie, but then there's the whole thing with Nyx. I mean, Nyx is not even a part of The Last Illusion. There really is the main villain of The Last Illusion is Butterfield.
Yeah.
Which again is a very changed, very different character than he is in the Books of Blood story. Because Butterfield in the Books of Blood story,
one of the early scripts, that Butterfield was going to be the main bad guy.
Yeah.
So he's got the idea for Nyx later.
Yeah.
Like draft 3.
Oh man,
the third draft of The Last Illusion. Right. Okay. So Butterfield is in this book. He's kind of like a bureaucrat from hell, kind of. Is that an actual, an accurate definition of him?
Is he an attorney or? I'm trying to remember. I didn't reread the story. I only read the introductions in preparation.
Kind of like a sole accountant or something. Yeah. Someone who comes to collect contracts, I guess.
Yeah. Maybe he's a collections agent.
yeah. But so and some things are really different. For example, in the Books of Blood story, the opening is with Swan after the show, and that's when he dies. I don't want to spoil the story too much, but he doesn't die a public death like we see in the movie. But obviously, that's been amped up in the movie, so it becomes much more interesting visually. The Pantages Theater performance, and he dies in front of an entire audience. But does he really die? That's the question there.
Yeah.
Of course, in this one, he's pretty much dead as a dodo.
The next introduction was from Lucian Greaves, who is also he's also part of the Satanic Church. I think he founded the Satanic Temple, or co-founded, I guess. And honestly, when I read this one, the way I felt about it is that he starts off a little bit talking about Last Illusion, and then he sort of forgets that this. Well, it seems like he just sort of forgets that this is supposed to be about the Last Illusion, and he goes off on a soapbox about Christians, and that goes on for like 10 pages, and then he's like remembers himself and brings up Last Illusion again by the end.
Oh wow!
Yeah, there's about 2 paragraphs on the Last Illusion. It looks like.
Yeah, and the rest of it is all just talking about what hypocrites Christians are, and there's one, and there was one line that he repeated, like I swear it 3 times. He said, "What good is turning water into wine, or that Lazarus gets to live another year?" I swear he said that 3 times in that introduction, and I kept thinking that did I drop the book and pick it up in I'm back back where I started again. And it's like, no, he's just saying it over again. And then there was another part where he called Butterfield Butterworth.
Oh, okay. I want to say something about the line you just quoted. Because in the story, The Last Illusion, there's a point when Demore is talking to Valentin, and Valentin explains why Demore was extremely disappointed after he made the deal with the Gulfs to get power. Because, he defined himself as an illusionist, but he really did magic, and he did magic every night on the stage. But he says that once he realized that he had exchanged his soul for a mess of pottage, he was devastated. And Demore asks why, and he says, well, because he said miracles are useless. Magic is a distraction from the real concerns. It's rhetoric, melodrama. Mm-hmm. That's what he explains. That, and I think every one of us would be like, gee, I wish I could do miracles and I wish I could do magic. But once you think about it, I came up with this idea that, you can't heal the sick one at a time. That's not coming up with a cure. If he had decided to use his powers to do something like that, he would have to open up an office and be like, all right, sick people, come over and I'll heal you. That's not really a cure. It's better to come up with a cure than to heal the sick just one at a time. It's better you can turn lead into gold, but that just makes gold worthless and it doesn't end poverty,
Right.
So I think I understand that sentence in the sense that miracles bend the rules. They don't offer answers. It's just a quick fix.
Well,
right?
and that's and that's kind of his point, I guess, or what ties his long soapbox into the story Last Illusion is that miracles are useless, and then he sort of goes off on how Christians have to believe in magic and metaphysical stuff and.
Sure, I think
even though it's all just a big illusion and it's a show and that kind of stuff.
Right. I understand that there's still a lot of the modern concept of magic is something that has more to do with the power of your own power of belief. Your own power to communicate with something that may not be an actual entity, but maybe something deep inside you. That can bring you some power, some empowerment to your actions. I think that's the what's behind like the more modern concept of magic with a K.
Right.
You summon these entities from within yourself, and you make them real by feeling empowered that you have that power to summon that on demand. It's kind of complicated. We could go on an entire tangent about magic and stuff, but the point is that really like miracles would be useless. Because not only they break the laws of physics, and they would turn the universe into chaos, but it's like they're a quick fix. They don't really fix like poverty or famine or sickness. They just offer a quick fix. Yeah. And so I understand that point that Clive makes in the story.
The next one was Allan Mcfarland, which was kind of interesting, but he's like a special effects guy he talks about coming to meet Clive Barker on the set of the Magic Castle, and then his relationship with the Magic Castle after that.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, Steve Johnson came up with the makeup for Nyx as well, right? I know there was a very limited edition bust of Nyx that actually my brother has a few copies of that back in Portugal that he was lucky enough to find on eBay. Every once in a while he would come up on eBay and be like, oh, I found another bust of Nyx. And I think they made maybe 25 or 250.
250.
250, right, 250. It was a latex foam bust that's usually on a wooden base. And it usually came with like a little fabric hood and a cord tying it. And it looked really awesome. Do you have one, David?
Yeah, I've got number 51.
Oh, wow.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a pretty cool. There's a lot of like awesome stuff that was made for this movie. I remember seeing at one point Steve Johnson was auctioning off some stuff that he had. And one of them was a binder full of photos from behind the scenes of Lord of Illusions. And I can't tell what it started. I believe it might have been about $200 or $250, or maybe it was $400. It's been years since I've seen that. At the time, I was a poor college student. I couldn't afford that. So I had to let it go. But in preparation for this episode, I was looking around for interesting stuff about the special effects. And I found that there was an artist called Evan Campbell. He's on DeviantArt, and he has a picture of a sculpture that he created for the Clive Barker film Lord of Illusions. It was supposed to be the obscenity creature. It never ended up in the final cut, but it was still great to be able to render one of his visions. And so we'll add that one to the show notes. So so I was talking about that obscenity creature that's on DeviantArt, that people can go and look at it. So yeah, go check that one out. We'll add that one to the show notes. It's by Evan Campbell. And it was a really gruesome looking thing. A very shapeless, Cthulhu-styled obscenity creature. That's.
Oh, and then the next thing I didn't understand, David. Did you know what that picture of the guy with the turban? Did you know what that was about?
Oh, that's Aleister Crowley.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. Maybe that's
There's several pages of that for some reason.
Yeah, it's like, different, like it's the same photo, but it's like they zoomed in on different parts of the photo and you see it like 10 times in there.
Okay.
And the last page he's in shadow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Clive likes a lot like the works of Aleister Crowley. I mean, he shows up in some movies like Hellbound. In Dr. Chenard's office, there's a picture of Aleister Crowley on the wall, and other places like that. I mean, Doug Bradley has played a couple of Aleister Crowley-styled characters in the movies, like the Book of Blood as well. Mm-hmm. He's the magician that gets like slammed by the ghosts in the Books of Blood house. So yeah, there's a lot of connections there, I guess. I really need to get this book because now I'm really interested in that, because Aleister Crowley is a fascinating character. He was in Portugal. He actually faked his death once in Portugal. He went there to visit a writer called Fernando Pessoa, and which inspired one of the Nightbreed called Pessoa the Pale. But there's a place in the shore that's called Hell's Mouth, which is a cave carved by the water in the shoreline of Portugal, in the south of Portugal. And they call it the Hell's Mouth because a lot of people died there, and actually it became like kind of a very dangerous place to swim around. And he faked his own death. Aleister Crowley went there. They think it was because he was escaping debt collectors. So he left a cigarette box, I think, and a letter on the shore there. And then it seemed like he had jumped in, but he hadn't. He had actually gone back to London to escape his debt collectors. So I'll see if I can find anything in English that mentions that brief story, because it's pretty cool. And he faked his own death in Portugal. But he was a crazy character. He was really like a fascinating man.
And then there's little blurbs about each intro writer on the back after the story's over.
And so that guy met Clive Barker at the Magic Castle?
Allan Mcfarland. Yeah, he is. He was a special effects guy, but I think it seemed like more like lighting effects and stuff.
I see.
David, was that how you took it?
Yeah. Then he worked on lighting for the Magic Castle after that.
Yeah. And he did. I mean, there was a few little tidbits, like he said that the book repository isn't really part of the Magic Castle. That was done on a soundstage, and he says they do have a cool library that is, people think of in that same kind of reverential way, but the library wasn't any good to film in because it was too narrow and too tall or something like that.
Oh wait, so you're telling me there's no hologram monsters in there protecting like
or a thing that machine that clamps those spikes onto your hands?
Yeah, if you try to steal it, that's pretty cool. Obviously, that's a romanticized idea of what the Magic Castle would be like. But it's a pretty cool sequence, yeah.
But he does say that they do have one of the best libraries about magic in the world.
Oh, I'll bet. Yeah. Again, there's a great coming together of a lot of famous magicians that I'm sure they've left their mark at the Magic Castle. I got a question for you guys. Scott Bakula, okay, the actor, has he defined the character for you? How did you envision D'Amour? Because I think I've read the story before I saw the movie, but I never really associated both of them because they're so different. So I guess I saw D'Amour as kind of like a guy wearing like a more old style like hat, like a
noir detective,
gumshoe detective, like someone like that wearing like a suit and a hat or something like that. Is that like you envision him or not?
I don't really even remember how I envisioned him before the Lord of Illusions. I mean, I think more of the story, I guess, than what the characters look like. But after Lord of Illusions, it was always Scott Bakula.
Sure.
Yeah, before I pictured him as James Garner from his Marlowe story.
Oh, that's cool. That is cool. I think in the Last Illusion story, he's meant to be European because there's a letter that he writes to Dorothea where he says, "Don't take my body back to Europe. Just cremate me and have someone watch my body for at least 24 hours or something." So it makes it seem like he might not have been American. Swan, he might have been European.
Swan.
Yeah, I thought it was like Germany or something.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And I was looking up. I always like to look up little tidbits behind the names, see if I could come up with origin for the names and if there's any sort of symbolism behind it. For Swan, there's two nationalities that were possible for this name. From the Old English word swan, which was originally described a swineherd, and later became cross-linked with the actual word swan for the bird. In medieval times, they could have described a keeper of swans. Huh. And for Dorothea, it actually comes from the Greek Dorotheos, which means gift from God. And there might be some symbolism there, because Dorothea is kind of like this almost angelical, very devoted wife figure. And I thought that's cool, like Dorothea being gift from God.
Well, and going back to swan, that's really interesting too, because if the root is swine, it'd be kind of like you cast your pearls before swine, right? That hell gave him all this magical power, and he's just trying to write them off as tricks.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And then at the same time, and then you sort of juxtapose that against a swan, and a swan is this sort of beautiful bird.
Yeah, very elegant, beautiful bird. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting.
And David, your sister paints, right? So I remember you were asking at one point if anybody could send you pictures of Demore so she could make like a painting of Demore. Did she ever complete that?
Yeah, she did, but I was originally going to have her paint him on Wyckoff Street, like Ted Dusseldorf's painting.
Oh, yeah, stepping on the snake.
Yeah, that was too difficult. Never got the right images for that.
That would be interesting. I wonder if Clive Barker has something with that. If he illustrated something or for that painting.
Yeah, you'd think he would have tried it at one point.
That was Everville, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
The Devil and Demore part.
Maybe if we're lucky, whenever the second volume of this Dark Regions Press Deluxe edition of the Books of the Art comes, maybe there'll be some sort of sketch in there from Clive Barker. You never know. There's a lot of stuff. I remember a long time ago, I was on the internet and I saw someone had like these paintings that they had made of Harry Demore. One of them was called Demore on Wyckoff Street, and they depicted Scott Bakula as Harry Demore. And I was trying to look those up for this episode, but I couldn't find them anymore. I wonder if that artist's website is down. But if I find it, I'll add it to the show notes as well.
The one on the stairway was pretty good too. I don't know if that was by the same artist or not. Do you remember that one?
Oh,
yeah. I know that there were two of them that artist had made, and I may have those saved somewhere, but I just couldn't find it for the love of me. I could not find it on the internet. Maybe I was...
Is that the staircase that Hess got pushed down?
Yeah, I'm guessing.
There's several staircases. It's like his fear of staircases.
Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah, Demore in the middle of it.
That always kind of bugged me a little bit. Did you guys think that why was it so derivative of The Exorcist? With the priest getting knocked down the stairs and...
Sure, that might have influenced Clive. I mean, Clive likes a lot of classic movies like that. That would be an excellent question for Clive, I guess.
There was a story that he told of being a kid watching a movie and having seen it twice, knowing how it was going to... It was probably Psycho. I think it was Psycho. Where he had seen it. Okay. He watched the audience the second time to see how they reacted to it, and that was when he decided he wanted to get into writing horror stories. I think
that sounds very familiar.
Yeah, I think that was Psycho, because The Exorcist isn't old enough for him to have been a kid.
That may be in a book intro somewhere, right? Introduction to a book, I guess. Yeah. I think I've read something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We'll have to find that out.
But yeah,
Any idea
in The Exorcist, the older priest gets knocked down the stairs presumably by the demon. I mean, I think they sort of write it off as an accident, but...
Yeah, but I'm sorry that The Last Illusion wasn't more directly translated into the film. I mean, the film is beautiful. I love the film, don't get me wrong, The Lord of Illusions. But I just feel like the third act of The Last Illusion is a really amazing one, where we have this the Valentin is revealed to be something more than human, and then the castrato, the castrato figure is very striking as a monster.
But something that even if you go back to Clive's earliest drafts of the Last Illusion movie, he had written out all of these fantastical demons and sort of put all of the power of all these demons into Butterfield. So that way they wouldn't have to do special effects for those things.
Or else he was actually going to be those two creatures as well. I'm not sure. I'm not.
Yeah,
or if it was just good.
And that orchestra from hell that shows up in the Books of Blood story, it's also, that's just amazing. I would love to see that depicted in the movie. But unfortunately, the story got changed. Things happen, like Clive Barker said in the foreword for the making of the film book for Nightbreed. He says, movies change and change and change. And it is what happens. It's a collaborative effort. And sometimes they change for the better. For example, Clive did some good changes in The Hellbound Heart. And, and Nightbreed is not a direct translation of the book Cabal either. So
yeah, it's pretty close, but it's not exactly the same.
Yeah. But, sometimes he changes the characters to become a little more interesting for the cinema. Because, we have to translate. It's a different medium. Sometimes you don't have the access to the character's inner voice. Or you have to come up with something that's less complex for the special effects people. For example, this third act of The Last Illusion it would have been very effects heavy. I mean, you'd have a lot of creatures, a lot of different locations, and a lot of special effects they would have to come up with. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this book. Now that you guys have convinced me that it's full of good, cool content, I think I'm gonna order it on the weekend.
Oh, good. Yeah, I would. And it seems like they don't sell out super fast, these Fiddleblack books, but they do eventually.
Yeah, there's 500,
300 of them.
Yeah,
300.
What number do you have?
11.
Oh, wow.
Wow, that's a pretty low number. Wow, congrats.
I have 154.
Okay, well, I'm sure I'll have something close to the 300, to the 200, low 200s or whatever.
Yeah, and they always put F on there, and we asked him when we interviewed him, well, what is the F? And it's like, oh, that just stands for Fiddleblack.
Okay. That's cool. Yeah, so get this book. Don't get it before I get a copy, but get this book. And yeah, that sounds cool. Thank you, David, for being a part of this episode.
We'll post the episode after you buy the book.
Yeah. It's great that you're a part of this episode today, and I hope that we can squirrel you into another episode sometime in the future.
Yeah, and
thanks for having me. I had fun listening along.
All right. Recommendations. Yeah, get the book, I guess. Yeah. Right, guys?
Yeah. Also, go. Rob Ridenour is not in this episode. He did write a feature, kind of a goodbye and sort of a retrospective on his time at the Clive Barker Podcast. So if you get a chance, go out and read that. It's on our website, clivebarkercast.com. I thought that was really, really nice, really touching thing that he did.
Yeah, I remember him being in episode 86. I was not a part of that episode, actually. That's when you guys interviewed Christine McCorkindale, who was Sheena Sassy,
right,
with Michael Plimides.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I wasn't there. I think I was in a vacation or something in Las Vegas. But yeah, it was great to have him from episode 86 all the way down to the 2016 year in review. Rob put us on the map when it comes to the blog. He turned the blog into like a news outlet by the fans and for the fans. And he's still very much a part of our daily conversations on Facebook and Messenger. So he's doing great. He's very happy that people are so concerned about him. Some people were asking in Occupy Median, hey, where did Rob go? He used to have a profile and now I can't find him anymore. And it's like, yeah, he kind of left Facebook. He's doing some life changes. And I think both you and I are doing some life changes too.
Yeah.
Career changes for some of us, and we're just keeping this podcast because it's something that keeps us sane, and it's something that we feel like we really need to do. So, at least for me.
Yeah, same. And this podcast, having no beginning, will have no end. You can find the show notes for this page and lots of Clive Barker news and features at www.clivebarkercast.com. Leave comments there or get them directly into the podcast by clicking the Send Voicemail tab on the right. Please follow us on Twitter at BarkerCast or at Occupy Midian, like us on Facebook, and join the Occupy Midian Facebook group. You can listen on the site or subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Libsyn, TuneIn, Pocket Cast, Google Play, and Double Twist. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Please take a couple of minutes to leave us a review on iTunes. It means the world to us and helps us spread the word about Clive Barker. The Clive Barker Podcast, or BarkerCast, is an independent editorial fan site and podcast that is not affiliated with or under contract by Clive Barker or Seraphim Films. This is a labor of love by the fans for the fans.
Thanks for listening.